Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It is time for part 2 of 4 for the NFL best case scenario for all 32 NFL teams. We all, as I don't need to do much of an introduction for this one, as again, part one's already out. But as a quick rundown, we do best case scenario for all NFL teams. Try to give them a different case or a different scenario for each team. So each team has their own different goals. Each team has their own different ambitions. Not every team can make the playoffs. Not every team can win the Super Bowl, and not every team can end up with a number one overall pick. Now, what you see on the screen is the list of all the teams being talked about in today's video. So if your team is not on here, it is likely in part 3 or 4. So once again, I don't have to do much of an introduction. So yeah, let's get it. We're about to get into it. So yeah, simple as that. So again, I'm finally glad I'm getting this goddamn series worked on because it was originally a one-part video, and I've talked about it many times. Our first team today will, of course, be the Seattle Seahawks, the defending Super Bowl champions. Let's talk about it. The most important thing to ask for the Seahawks is, can they do it again? Can they make the Super Bowl again, or can they win the Super Bowl again? And will they regress? Because some people believe they will regress because of the players they lost. Now let's look at their schedule. Week 1 against the Patriots, I honestly think they're still better than the Patriots, even with the addition of A.J. Brown. I still think they're better. Week 2 against the Cardinals, that's a win. Week 3 against the Commanders. Commanders are pretty eh. The Chargers, Niners, Broncos, Chiefs, Bears, Cardinals. Speaking of which, I'm going to the Chargers game. Raiders, and then you got the Niners again, Cowboys, Giants, Eagles, Rams, Panthers, and Rams. They got some tough opponents here and there, and it's true. I do believe they will possibly lose a few more games this year compared to last year where we went to 14-3, but I still think they can, one, win more than 11 games at most, make the playoffs for sure, possibly win the division, and, a lot of people say, oh, they lost players. They lost Tariq Woolen, who, yeah, he had a good first few years of his career, but he really fell off, especially this year. He really fell off. The Seahawks obviously lost Kenneth Walker. That is a huge loss, but losing like Kobe Bryant, I really did love him as a player. Really wish they could have kept him, but it's unfortunate. And then also Boye Mafe, but like I think the Seahawks are going to be fine without these players. I think the only one that's going to really sting is losing Kenneth Walker. But you're still going to have Jadarian Price. You're still going to have Zach Charbonnet when he's healthy and ready. The Seahawks are still a good team. Sam Darnold is still a good quarterback. And this team still has one of the best receivers in the league. You still got Rashid Shaheed. You still got Cooper Kupp, who may not be his 2021 form, but he is still a reliable clutch veteran. You might be getting Torrey Horton might finally be back because he missed almost all of last year. I think he had one big game against the Commanders and he unfortunately got hurt. The Seahawks offense is still a really good unit. The Seahawks defense is still really fucking good. So the whole thing about the Seahawks regressing a lot, it's not going to be because of the fact that they lost Tariq Woolen or, you know, Kobe Bryant. It's going to be because, certain things happen. And I still believe the Seahawks will 100% make the playoffs. Or I still believe the Seahawks will totally make the playoffs. It's possible. It's very, very possible for sure. And then when it comes to a regression, it might happen. I don't think that it'll regress so bad that they miss the playoffs unless an injury happens or just generally it's just not a good year. But I think the Seahawks are still an elite team. I still think they will be in the playoffs. I still think they could possibly win the division. They're a good team. All right. The Rams are obviously improved from last year. The Rams will give the Seahawks a fight because the Rams want to win the division this time around. The Rams want to win the Super Bowl as well. I think the Seahawks are better than the Niners in a lot of ways. I do believe that. I think the Seahawks are better than the Niners. I think the Niners are slowly regressing, and as they age more and more, their Super Bowl window closes more and more. And I just don't think they're really on that level to compete with either the Seahawks or the Rams. I do think the Seahawks are better than a majority of NFC teams as well. I think they're better than the Cowboys. I think they're better than the Bears. They're better than certain teams in the NFC. And I do believe the Seahawks can possibly make another Super Bowl appearance. Certain things have to go their way. Obviously, you gotta beat the Rams along the way, possibly in the playoffs, or unless someone else does it for you. But for the most part, the Seahawks are an elite team. I don't think they're. And I'm not trying to be a biased Seahawks fan here, but I don't think it's going to be a whole thing that they regress and they suck. They're still going to be extremely good. They're still going to be really, really good. And I think the Seahawks can totally make another Super Bowl appearance and possibly go back to back like they should have done against the Patriots. But back in, with Russell Wilson. Back then, that's what I'm talking about. So obviously we all know if the Seahawks ran the ball, they would have gone back to back in 2014. But, you know how it is. But anyways, we're just going to wrap it up for the Seahawks. I think their best case scenario generally is to make another Super Bowl appearance and to win the Super Bowl. It's very similar to the Rams' goal is to win the Super Bowl. I think the best case scenario for the Seattle Seahawks is to win Super Bowl 61, go back to back, and prove yourselves as the defending champs. All right, our next team is another team in the NFC. We have the Carolina Panthers. We all know that they made the playoffs last year. They won the NFC South with an 8-9 record, mainly because the division was ass. Now, I know I already did say that the Saints could make the playoffs too, and it kind of applies for almost all the teams in the NFC South, because honestly, if certain things go in any of their favor, they can make it work. Like, I'm going to use the Falcons as an example. The Falcons are an extremely talented team. They're not extremely talented, but they have a lot of talent on said team. And if they can get a quarterback, maybe whether Tua or Michael Penix shows off, they could have something. Anyways, with the Panthers, their schedule, it has some tough opponents. Week 1, they are starting with the Bears. That is a tough game. Week 2, Falcons, Browns, Lions, then the Eagles, Bucks, Packers, Broncos, Saints, Ravens, Buccaneers again, Vikings, Saints, Bengals, Steelers, Seahawks, and Falcons. They can make the playoffs. They can win their division. This schedule has some tough opponents, that's for sure. But I do see a couple winnable games. This schedule is not easy, though, that's for sure. This schedule, the easiest game is maybe the Browns. Outside of that, maybe. I'm not really sure what other team would be considered easy on here. But the Panthers are a good team. They have good talent. They have a good offense and a good defense. The problem is they were extremely inconsistent last year. We would see them, give the Rams, actually beat the Rams in the regular season, but then get swept by the Saints. And that's not too much of an insult to either teams. It's just, being swept by your divisional rival, your divisional opponent is nothing good. Okay. They got swept by the Saints. But then they go beat the Rams. And then they also actually gave the Rams a big run for their money in the playoffs. They actually generally got, they gave them trouble. They gave them a lot of trouble. Now, again, it's a new year. Can they fix that consistency? Because this schedule is a bit more tough. And I do think, I think they beat the Packers last year too. They beat some random teams. They beat like the Packers, the Cowboys, they beat some of the good teams. Well, I'm not saying the Packers are an elite team or the Cowboys, but you catch what I'm saying. Now, again, personally, I think the Panthers can 100% make the playoffs again, and they can 100% win their division. Again, the NFC South is a little weak, and I know I said the exact same thing about the Saints. The Saints are a relatively talented team themselves. In reality, I don't actually think they'll make the playoffs. I know I did say their best case scenario is to make the playoffs. That is their best case scenario, but in reality, I don't know if that'll actually happen. But we'll have to wait and see. For the Panthers, again, they are defending champs of their division. I think they're capable of doing it again, possibly. Only problem is you got the Falcons and the Bucks. Well, and of course the Saints. All teams are kind of equally contending for the division that's, again, not that strong unless one team, randomly goes 13-4 and is obviously the best out of them. But I don't think any team in the NFC South will be doing that. The Bucks, they're solid. They're a good team. I think they're kind of on their way out, though, to be honest. I think they're going to regress more and more as the years go on. And the Falcons, they have talent. It's just the problem is they can't put it together. We have to wait and see if they can. Honestly, though, the best case scenario for the Carolina Panthers is to win their division again and make the playoffs and not go 8-9. Maybe go 10-7 or 11-5. 11-6, my bad. Sheesh. But they're certainly capable of winning more games, possibly. But again, the schedule's not easy. They need to clean up the inconsistency that they had from last year. And Bryce Young needs to play good because there was a couple games where he generally just played horrible. So, best case scenario for the Carolina Panthers is to make the playoffs, win your division, and do better than 8-9, essentially. Our next team is another one I'm not really too high on, which is, of course, the New York Jets. Now, I could joke about them, saying the same old Jets and blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of true. I think this year is going to be a rough year, but to be honest, the Jets do have a potential future. They have a lot of draft capital. they had a lot of draft picks over just this one draft alone from 2026. They have more capital in the future, of course, from the trades they made. They're not a good team. Okay, their schedule isn't particularly great. Week 1 is a potential win, but after that, it's not great. I'm gonna be real. It's not great here for the Jets. I don't really see them having a good year again. They brought back Geno Smith to, I don't know, stabilize the quarterback position for now, and I think that's kind of all he'll do. And I think Geno Smith, he's not an awful quarterback. I mean, he wasn't great with Las Vegas. Obviously, he was good with the Seahawks, but his time in Las Vegas wasn't very great. And I don't think his time in New York or New Jersey, technically, sorry, is going to be much better. The schedule isn't favoring them by any means. I think the majority of these games are losses. Their roster isn't an elite roster by any means. To be quite frank, I think their best case scenario is to simply suck as usual and get another good draft pick. Because obviously, I don't know if they drafted anyone. I know next year's quarterback class is pretty chunky. Pretty big. So, what's your goal for the Jets? Suck. Simply suck. Maybe get the number 1 overall pick if you want it. Although I'm not sure if they're that. No, their schedule is that hard though. But I do feel like, are the Jets worse than the Cardinals though? No, I don't know if the Jets are worse than the Cardinals. The Cardinals actually have talent. Sort of. I mean, Garrett Wilson is better than the entire Cardinals receiving core, at least. Brees Hall is a good running back still. But yeah, I'm gonna be real though. The Jets, their best case scenario, I'm gonna keep it straightforward. It's simply to suck because this year is not their year. I'm sorry, Jets fans, but it's gonna be another year of suffering. That's just how it is. I mean, maybe if you want to overachieve, but you'll also hurt potential draft capital in the future, for next year's draft. So their goal is simply just to suck, because I mean I can't really see them overachieving either. I don't really see them winning any of those games or making any upsets, because when do the Jets really make upsets? It's not very often. So I don't think they'll be pulling on any off this year. I think Geno Smith is simply there to keep the quarterback position. It's kind of a band-aid option. He's just there until they can draft someone. But the best case scenario for the New York Jets is to suck. It's as simple as that. All right, let's move on to a better team. We have the Kansas City Chiefs. And honestly, I don't know exactly what to know about. I don't know what to think about them, because there is a scenario where the Chiefs just aren't great, Are they going to bounce back from their off year last year, where even before Patrick Mahomes got injured, they weren't that great of a team? Now, obviously, the NFL was still glazing the fuck out of them, but their schedule isn't particularly super difficult. However, week 1 against the Broncos starting immediately, that's tough. Week 2 against the Colts, the Colts, I think, without Daniel Jones, obviously, I'm not sure when he'll be ready. It's going to be rough. Their few games are pretty easy, like the Dolphins, the Raiders, the Chargers can obviously put up a fight. The Seahawks will be a tough one. Pretty sure that's in Seattle, right? Yeah, that's in Seattle. Then you got the Broncos again, the Jets, bad. So their schedule's honestly not that bad. There is some easier opponents. However, it does get kind of tough right by the November checkpoint. Not really November, actually. At end of November, starting to December. What week is that? Week 12 against the Bills. That is pretty tough. Then you got the Rams, Bengals, Patriots, 49ers, and Chargers. Those are all tough games. Now, are the Chiefs going to be back next year? I don't know. Will they regress? I mean, they already regressed last year. Will they not be able to bounce back, and will this be another year they miss the playoffs? I don't know. But let's get into their best case scenario. Their best case scenario is to simply reclaim their division. Obviously, we all know last year, the Broncos took it by a pretty big margin. The Broncos were a dominant team in the division, and, well, if Bo Nix don't get hurt in the playoffs, they're in the Super Bowl instead of the Patriots, to be real. The best case scenario for the Kansas City Chiefs is simply return to form. Return to form. Your offense gets back on track. Your defense gets back on track. Your Patrick Mahomes is healthy. The offense is smooth, functional, and deadly. The defense is stiff, strong, and doesn't bend. Well, will bend but not break. And obviously reclaim the division. Well, I don't know if the number one seed, it's possible actually. If the Chiefs can return to form and become the peak Chiefs, like their prime essentially. But I don't really know because their roster on offense isn't particularly super fantastic. The receiving core is generally pretty mediocre, to be honest. Um, but the addition of Kenneth Walker is good because the Chiefs have never really had much of a big running game, of course, I don't think. But maybe with Kenneth Walker, that'll change. They did lose some cornerbacks, both of them actually going to the Rams, so their secondary is a little weakened by that. I'm not sure if the number one seed's a possibility because honestly, I do think some teams in the AFC are just generally better. I don't even know if winning the division is 100% possible because I do believe generally the Broncos are better and maybe even the Chargers are better on paper at least. But again, the big question is can the Chiefs return to form? Will good old Patrick Mahomes stay healthy all year? I'm sure he will, possibly whenever he returns. Again, I'm not actually sure if he'll be ready by week one. I don't know the whole health status with Patrick Mahomes at the very moment. But the regular season is rapidly approaching. It is rapidly approaching. I mean, if he's not there by week one, they definitely lose. If he's not, but I'm not. Again, I don't know the whole health status with him. I don't. I don't know the whole health status. Okay, I double check so I don't sound like an idiot. It appears he is expected to start week one. So okay, so he should be fine, maybe. Um, if he's healthy all year, good for them. Their offense, I still think their offense is generally kind of receiving core isn't fantastic. You have Kenneth Walker now a new toy, of course, but I still believe the offense has a couple holes. Travis Kelce is old, and but the best case scenario again for the Chiefs. Again, I don't believe deep down. I don't believe winning the division is possible. I do believe the Broncos are just 1,000 times better. But you know, you can't always doubt the Chiefs. I do think. Okay. I'm gonna kind of backtrack on the best case scenario. I don't think they can win the division. I don't think it'll happen. But their goal is to simply make the playoffs, and honestly, make some upsets in the playoffs and get back to the Super Bowl. I mean, that's kind of the best case scenario for them. You know, I mean, probably. Yeah, best case scenario for the Kansas City Chiefs is to reach the Super Bowl again, whether it's by winning their division or not. Just making the playoffs alone is the main goal, or part of the goal, and then the main goal is getting back to the Super Bowl and maybe winning it. We'll kind of see, but yeah, that's kind of what the main goal is. The best case scenario for them. I mean, what else could I say, right? All right, next up, we have the San Francisco 49ers. What is their best case scenario? Now, again, I'm a Seahawks fan, so I'll try not to be anti 49er biased, of course. But I have to be brutally honest here. They're already stacking up injuries. It's like, it's not looking good. Ricky Pearsall is confirmed to miss the entire year. Mike Evans is already injured. He's already having some trouble. Again, we'll skip that we'll talk about that soon. Their schedule has some tough opponents. Week one against the Rams in Australia. I know it's in Australia. It can create some differences. It's a very unique venue, of course. Um, might be confusing for both teams, but I do believe the Rams are just a better team by a lot. The Rams are better in almost every single category except maybe running back. Um, week 2 and 3, you get a break with the Dolphins and the Cardinals. No offense to the Dolphins, of course, but they're not winning against the Niners. Then they got the Broncos, Seahawks back to back. Those are two tough games. I think they lose both games, to be honest. Commanders, they can win that. Falcons, maybe. Raiders, of course, they can beat that. Cowboys, and then the Vikings in Mexico, and then the Seahawks again, Giants, Rams, Chargers, Chiefs, Eagles, and Cardinals. I think the final stretch of the year is really difficult. I mean, you got the Cowboys, Vikings. I know the Viking people say, "Oh, the Vikings really." Listen, if they got a good if they actually got a competent quarterback, whether it's Kyler Murray or JJ McCarthy, that offense is a freaking unit. And then the Chiefs and the Eagles, those are all tough games to really end the year with. And again, as I mentioned, they're already stacking up injuries. Ricky Pearsall is going to be missing the entire year. Okay, so already your receiving core is down. Mike Evans is already reportedly struggling with issues. It's not looking good, and there's a whole list of other players who are already having injuries. And I know people say, "Oh, well, the Niners still made the playoffs last year, and they could have won the division." Yeah, again, I mean that was last year. But I mean, I don't know if they're going to have that same luck. And sure, Kyle Shanahan has always kind of proven he can do a lot with less. You know, he's always taken these scruffy, injured rosters to the playoffs, but nothing more. They've, I mean, they can maybe make. Oh, no, I'm gonna be real. I don't actually believe they'll make the Super Bowl this year. Being real, the Seahawks have a better roster in almost every category. The Rams have a better roster in almost every category. Both of these teams ahead of them are just miles better. They're also not already suffering with injuries. The Niners are already down with their injuries. They're already stacking up that list. And even if they're healthy, I don't really believe they're better than the teams ahead of them. But let's get something straight. So I'm trying not to be too much of a hater. But let's go best case scenario, of course. So in the event, obviously we all know no Ricky Pearsall, but let's just say the rest of the team stays healthy. What is their best case scenario? A playoff appearance. I don't think winning the division is possible. I'm going to be so real. I don't think winning the division is possible. The Rams, especially if Aaron Donald comes back, I mean, the Rams are winning the division, possibly. Possibly, okay? Even the Seahawks will have a very high chance as well. But the Niners, I can't. I mean, the offense is already stacked up with injuries. Christian McCaffrey's getting older and he's a workhorse, but like, how much longer until he's out for the rest of the year? Not saying that I hope that happens, of course. Hope everyone stays healthy for the most part. I hope everyone stays healthy, but it's just for some reason the Niners, maybe it's because of that substation they play next to. But nevertheless, best case scenario for the 49ers, I think, is to stay moderately healthy. All right, that's one thing. And then make the playoffs. I don't think they can win the division. I don't think they're better than the Seahawks, and I don't think they're better than the Rams. They're better than the Cardinals, of course. The Cardinals are the Cardinals, but after that, is a Super Bowl appearance really possible? I don't really think so. I'm gonna be so real. I'm gonna be so real with you. But again, best case scenario. Their best case scenario is to truly find a way to overcome all of my doubts I have against them, right? Make the playoffs. Maybe not win the division, but at least make the playoffs. Make some upsets, beat a team that's generally better than you. Like, to be honest, they beat the Eagles in the playoffs last year. The Eagles are a better team. Well, they were a better team last year, but they still won. Get past the divisional, get past the championship. No, obviously, I'm going to be the best case scenario for the Niners is to win your first Super Bowl in 30 years. It's been a long time, so yeah, win the Super Bowl. That is their best case scenario. I'm just going to go straight out, flat out with that. I don't truly believe it'll happen, but I'm still it's the best case scenario. It's kind of I have to say it that way. Yeah. So their best case scenario for the San Francisco 49ers is, of course, a Super Bowl victory. I don't think it's happening. I'm joking, guys. But that would be their best case scenario. All right, our next New Jersey team, we got the New York Giants. Now, what is the best case for the scenario for the Giants? Because we all know they didn't have a particularly great season last year, but it also didn't help that Malik Neighbors got hurt. They had a really tough schedule last year. Jackson Dart also missed some time. Cam Scadaboo missed some time. But I'm gonna be real. I do like the trio, the little trio they got with Jackson Dart, Cam Scadaboo, and Malik Neighbors. And honestly, their defense is a pretty solid unit. Yes, they lost Dexter Lawrence, but I still believe the Giants defense is a solid unit. They do have their holes, of course. And, week one against the Cowboys, I mean, they're probably losing that game. Maybe. They might split with the Cowboys potentially. Week two, I mean, their first two games are really rough, and I do believe they probably will start 0-2. Best case scenario, 1-1, but they're not beating the Rams. Then they can totally beat the Titans, Cardinals, and Commanders, and the Saints, honestly, too. The Texans, I mean, maybe. No, the Texans defense is way too good. Then, of course, the Eagles, I think they will find a way to split with them because they seem to do that pretty often. I do believe they could potentially sweep the Commanders as well. Then the Seahawks, of course, they will lose to. Who else do they play? And, of course, they do have the Niners and the Lions on the schedule, too, and then they have two more divisional games after that. But, again, best case scenario, right? They have a solid core. They have a solid core, and they're definitely doing better than their neighbors. Now, again, they do have a good core, as I mentioned, but They do have some really tough games, but let's get something straight. I do believe that they could pull off some upsets. Okay, they could be a scruffy team that's like hard to beat, or that can be a real pain in your side. And I do believe this team could potentially make the playoffs as a wild card team. I don't know if they'll actually advance past the wild card, but I do think this team could potentially make the playoffs, especially if they're healthy all year. They have some good talent. They have some good talent. They have, draft capital for the future. They got something. Okay, unlike their neighbors, they actually have something. And I do believe the Giants could potentially make the playoffs. All right. I think they could potentially make the playoffs if all things fold in their favor. And again, that's why we're talking about it. Best case scenario. Their best case scenario is generally to make the playoffs. I don't know if it's to win the division because I do believe either the Cowboys or the Eagles will win it. But the Giants could make some noise. And I think the Giants could potentially make the playoffs. It's as simple as that, guys. I think the Giants could potentially make the playoffs. All right, next up we have the Atlanta Falcons. Now, we all know that the NFC South could technically belong to like anyone. It could. Could it belong to the Falcons? Maybe. Week 1 and 2, they got the Steelers and Panthers. That is probably a potential 1-1 start. Best case, 2-0 start. Then they will lose to the Packers, I think, probably. Yes, they might lose to the Packers. Then they got the Ravens. Again, the Ravens, we don't know how they'll actually perform, but if they're back to form, that's definitely a loss. The Bears, 49ers, you got the Chiefs later on, you got the Vikings, then the Lions. You got some tough opponents, but you also got some easy ones, sort of. But the best part for the Falcons is their division is fucking weak. No one really knows who exactly is going to win the division because of how bad it is. The best case scenario for the Falcons, obviously, win the division. If the Falcons can find a way to win the division, first off, they get a free ticket to the playoffs. But because the problem is their quarterback position. We don't know if it's going to be Michael Penix or Tua. Because it's one of those things, Michael Penix has not had a single fully healthy year. And even when he has been on the field, his play has been extremely mediocre. But then again, they're bringing in Tua, who also isn't very good. So I think this is a make or break year for Michael Penix. If he does not show anything this year, he's going to get thrown out and they're going to draft someone else. Or they're going to trade him or something, or they're going to let him go. And he's not going to be the quarterback for Atlanta anymore. But if he can show off, because it's kind of like the Giants. I do believe the Falcons have a really talented roster. It's just the problem that they don't have a quarterback, or they haven't had a quarterback for the last few years, and their coaching staff is also kind of incompetent. But with they were incompetent. Now, best case scenario for the Falcons, if they can win the division, that's step one. Win your division is step one right there. You do that, that's a big leap. Get to the playoffs. Now, what is their fate in the playoffs? I don't know. It really depends on their opponent. Because as I said, the Falcons they have a talented roster. It's just they haven't had the quarterback to put the roster together. They've had really incompetent coaching staff over the last few years, probably last 5 to 6 years, to be honest. They haven't had good coaching staff in a while, actually, to be honest. With the Falcons, if they can generally win the division, maybe pull off some upsets against some of the tougher opponents they play, they can maybe make some noise in the playoffs. I think maybe it depends on their opponent in the wild card. Assuming they're like the 4th or 3rd seed, because I don't think first seed's going to happen. Maybe they can get to the divisional. Maybe they can pull off an upset against whoever they face and get to the divisional. I think that's the best case scenario for the Atlanta Falcons right there, is make the playoffs. Because first off, I'm not going to over jump and say, oh yeah, make the Super Bowl, because it's not happening. But they haven't made the playoffs in has it been a decade that already? It's been a while. Best case scenario for the Atlanta Falcons is simply make the playoffs and hope one of your goddamn quarterbacks shows to be your guy. I don't think it'll be Tua. I think it's far more likely that Michael Penix actually stays healthy all year and proves himself. But the problem, again, is he hasn't been healthy, and he hasn't been able to prove himself. If he can do both of those things, if he can stay healthy and prove himself, the Falcons finally have their quarterback potentially, but we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. If he can stay healthy, they can win the division. They have a good core, they have a good roster. Let's see if they can make something happen. The best case scenario for the Atlanta Falcons is to make the playoffs. All right, so our next team, of course, and our last team is the Denver Broncos. Now, the Broncos, they acquired Jalen Waddle during the offseason, so they have a star wide receiver. Bo Nix is healthy, I think. I haven't checked his status, but I'm pretty sure he's fine. Again, we all kind of know, and most people do believe, that if he was healthy in the playoffs, in the championship round, they would have been in the Super Bowl instead of the Patriots. But let's get down to business. So week 1 against the Chiefs, I believe they win that. I believe they win. Right? And then they have the Jags. That's another win, I believe. Well, I mean, I know the Jags definitely handed ass. They kicked their ass last year, okay? The Rams is a really tough game. Really, really tough game, but I do believe the Broncos defense is generally better than the Rams defense, to be honest. Then they got the Niners. They're definitely beating the Niners. Sorry, Niners. Chargers, the Seahawks will be a tough game too. Seahawks and Chargers, tough games. They could potentially win them. I think if the Seahawks have a great start to the year and they're like, I don't know, what week is that? Is it week 6? If the Seahawks are like undefeated by that point, I do believe that would be the point where they lose potentially. And they're going to shred the Cardinals. And the rest of their schedule has some tough opponents, of course, as well. Like, their final 3 games are pretty tough. However, the last game against the Chargers generally could be interesting, especially if if both teams already have a spot clinched, and it doesn't really matter. Both teams might end up resting their starters. Kind of just depends on what happens. But the Broncos, I almost said Patriots, the Broncos are an extremely good team. We all saw them last year. We saw what they did last year. They made the championship game. They would have advanced to the Super Bowl if Bo Nix was healthy. They would have. And let's just say everything goes well for them. Bo Nix is healthy, and their defense is even better than they were last year, and their offense is even better than they were last year. Let's keep it quick here. The Broncos can and possibly could make the Super Bowl. They can make the Super Bowl, and they possibly will. They might. They might make Super Bowl 61. They might. Let's keep it a buck, man. The best case scenario for the Denver Broncos is to make the Super Bowl. Your roster is pretty fucking good. You own the division for now. If you can keep owning the division and keep your grip on it, you're going to win the division, so you get a free ticket to the playoffs. If you can obtain the number 1 seed, that's another big step. Make sure the playoffs run through Denver. Hard place to play, to be honest. And then, handle business in the playoffs. Handle whoever comes at you in the divisional round. Handle whoever comes to town in the championship round. And then handle whoever you got to face in the Super Bowl, whether it's the Rams, Seahawks, 49ers, Eagles, Packers, Lions, anyone. I mean, the Broncos, they got a good team. They got they don't have a good team. They have a great team. And I do believe with the addition of Jalen Waddle, it'll elevate their offense to new heights. And the defense, we don't even need to talk about them. They're good. Okay? They're good. They're a good unit. So, that's kind of all I got to say. The best case scenario for the Denver Broncos is to win Super Bowl 61. Make and win the Super Bowl. That's it. So, that'll wrap it up for today's video. I know this one took a while to come out. Part 3 and 4 are coming out very soon. Obviously, it is August now, so it is definitely time I get these videos out fast because the regular season is rapidly approaching. I was thinking about doing a power rankings video. I don't think I'll actually have it ready in time. Or I haven't even worked on it, but I don't think I'll have it at all on time. But a hot takes for the 2026 NFL season video is in the works. I have other videos that are not sports related. Actually, I don't have any non-sports related videos. It's around that time of the year where I make nothing but sports videos. Or related, NFL related videos. But in terms of other content, I am working on some other videos, sort of. I kind of have stuff ready to be made. It's just not made yet, of course. I basically have gameplay sitting on the burner, and it's ready to be recorded. I just haven't done it yet. But that'll wrap it up for today's video. Part 3 is going to come out soon. I want to have it out by Friday. I will work on Part 3 for the next few days, and I will have it out by Friday, best case scenario. Friday or Saturday, but Friday most likely. Anyways, Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video, and have a great rest of your day.